Saints of God, the Lord be with you. It is Monday, November the 1st, 2021. It is the Solemnity of All Saints. I am using Father Steve Kluge's famous greeting at Mass to greet everyone today because this is our feast day. This is not just the feast day of people who have gone before us and lived lives of perfection and lives that are holy and what have you, and all we can do is just gaze upon them and that's about it. No, there is much more to this solemnity than just honoring great heroes of the faith. It is the great feast of the saints that reside in heaven, but also the recognition of those saints that still walk among us and who show us in so many ways what it means to be people of love and forgiveness and hope and wonder and glory, because their lives are filled with the Spirit of God. Coming to you this morning from the great field of our school, the Franciscan school, and there's some sun getting in my eyes. The leaves are beginning to change on a number of the trees, and fall is continuing to move through here in Carolina. Great Carolina blue sky. It is a nice crisp morning. We could see our breath for the first time in many months. Again, it's a welcome respite from the heat and humidity. I think that began in April and just never ended. So finally, we are moving into more temperate and fall-like weather, which is so wonderful. And be greeted on this feast of all, on the Solemnity of All Saints with such weather is again another wonder and glory and gift of God in our midst. The readings today are standard. They are from Revelation, the first reading, in which John, the Apostle John, sees the vision of the saints, of people of every race and tongue, myriads of them gathered around the throne of God, the throne of the Lamb. They are wearing white garments, which John is told have been made white because they've been washed in the blood of the Lamb. The white that these people wear is not a white, again, of purity. It is not a white of perfection. It is not a white of never making a mistake. White for the ancients represented eternity because it was made by the flax plant, and the flax plant lend itself to the development of the color white. And because the flax plant renews itself again and again, it was thought to be a sign of eternity here and now in this world in which we live. And so people were clothed in white, always as symbols of eternity, not because they were perfect or holy or never made mistakes or what have you. And so these individuals who around the throne of God that John sees are those who trusted that God knew what God was doing and never wavered in that faith and never wavered in that trust. It may have been difficult, it may have been challenging, it may have been an uphill battle at times, but in the end, they chose to trust. They chose to believe that God knows what God is doing and that God has the best intentions for our happiness and our wonder and our goodness in God's plan. And so they surround the throne of the Lamb, giving praise to God again and again for the wonders that God has worked in their midst. Whenever we put on white at baptism, we too are pledging ourselves to never give up on God, to never give up on trusting God, but to keep our minds and hearts focused on eternity, on love that never ends, on life that never ends. Paired with that is the second reading from the first letter of John, in which John basically says that, again, our destiny lies with God. And we need to recognize that here and now and live a life that demonstrates and witnesses that our destiny lies with here and now with God. And what happens after we die, that is in God's plan, and we will see what that happens. But we are already part of God's life. We are already one with God, and we should never doubt that. And we should never ever think that that's an unattainable goal, or that's something we have to work for or merit or deserve or earn. We are one with God because God has created us, and God loves what God has created, and we are part of that loving creation. Matthew's gospel rounds everything out as the gospel today. It is the gospel of the Beatitudes, where those in want, need, desires, yearnings will have all of those things fulfilled. The promise that God will make everything blessed because God, again, can work wonders. God can work miracles. God can let all things happen for the good. Again, to trust that, as difficult as it is, to have faith in that, as difficult as it is, to keep moving forward sometimes, as difficult as that is, believing and knowing that God cares deeply for us and wants us to recognize that and live out of that care is one of the great challenges, but the most beautiful witnesses that we can give in this life that we live here and now. We are called to be saints. And the second Eucharistic prayer, the second Eucharistic prayer for reconciliation, which is sometimes rarely used, but should be used today, speaks about that destiny, where we too stand with those saints who have washed their robes clean in the blood of the Lamb, saints among the saints in the halls of heaven. That destiny is for all people who dare to believe, not for a special choice few, but for all of us who dare to keep trusting that God knows what God is doing, and keep trusting that God will lead us into what is good and glorious and wonderful in our lives. Saints of God, may the Lord give you his peace.